What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Leveled Up Life podcast. As always, Branamier Courtney here with Paul McClain, helping you level up your life in all the areas that matter most, whether it's your faith, your family, your fitness, or your franchise. There we go.
And finances.
It
all needs to get right.
Hey, today we're going to talk about something that every single one of you is and can become better at, which is your leadership. We want to help you level up your leadership, whether you're leading a family, leading a ministry, leading a business, or simply just leading yourself, which is the hardest thing to lead. We want to help you level up in that area. There's lots of thoughts, there's lots of topics, there's lots of leadership gurus. We don't pretend to be, any of those. We're just trying to lend our voice to help you get better in whatever area of leadership that is. And so today, let's talk about John Maxwell's 5 levels of leadership.
Dude, he's the guru.
He's the GOAT.
And I think you said it right, man. Like at the end of the day, if I'm not an expert in a certain field, I want to be able to kind of grab the coattails and especially fields that I know I need to get better at. Like leadership is like that benefits everybody.
100%.
And I think that for one, most people have they have the wrong definition of leadership.
Yeah.
So let's start there, because it's like if we're off on that, then it's hard to kind of even know where to build from. Like what would you describe leadership as?
So I love leadership, John Maxwell said leadership is simply influence, right? Like if anyone is following you, you turn around and it's like, hey, I got some influence in any area. Well, that technically defines you as a leader.
So it means anyone and everyone
is a leader, because you got some area of influence, whether, like I just said, you're leading your son or daughter at home, whether you're leading a team, a sports team, or a business. Like you got some level of leadership. And that whoever you're leading, like they're gonna rise or fall to your level of leadership, right?
Yeah.
And so I love Jabin Chavez's leadership definition, one that I've kind of taken on. He says it this way: leadership is the conviction that what you do is important and the skill to ask others to join me in that work. Like, I just love that.
Yeah.
Like leadership, man, it's the conviction on the inside that, hey, what I'm doing is important. It's helping people. Like I'm convinced of it, and
Right.
I'm convicted of it. And then the skill to actually get people to join in that important work. I've kind of adopted that leadership definition myself. And so, yeah, that's what I would say is my kind of definition right now where I'm running with.
Trying to grab it. Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, I mean, I think for one that everybody that's on here, if we take what you said, Brand, is like you're leading. So if you're, it's not just a position. So I think a lot of times somebody in our culture is like, oh, that person's the boss,
Right.
They're the leader, or that person's in charge, they're the leader, or that person's a department manager, they're the leader. And I think what we'll identify is that just because you've got a title doesn't make you a leader.
That's right.
Now, sometimes you'll have the title and you will be the leader, but oftentimes you don't have the title. Right. I was talking to Peyton about this, my daughter, about, soccer and being a captain. It's like sometimes the captain is a leader, sometimes the captain's not the leader, and sometimes the person that's on the team that might not have the title, but they've got the greatest influence. And that influence might be, dude, they just go hard. They're nonstop. Their activity is just relentless. Like when they look 100%. Like they're about to die, they sacrifice their body. When you think like that person, that kid's going to pass out, but all of a sudden they dig deeper and they go way further, or their attitude is just, it's a vitamin C. It's contagious in a positive way. Like no matter what takes place, they're empowering, they're equipping, they're helping the person on their team when they get a little down from a mishap or what have you. They're giving them encouragement to remind them of like, hey, that you're good, dude. Let's just continue to go. Right. That ends up being the leader. You could have the captain
100%.
That has the title and they've got it for whatever reason, but they're not having the greatest influence on the team.
No, it's good. Yeah, my boys always do the same thing. Like, especially when I coach, like, Dad, who's going to be the captain? And I tell them the same thing. I don't know. Like the captain's spot has to be earned. Like on this team, I'm not just going to give it to you because I'm the coach, right? So like you got to show me you're worthy of that title. And a lot of times what happens is we think that the title makes you a leader, and I've learned that it doesn't at all.
Right.
Like I've had people that were quote unquote the leader, but then no one liked being around that leader, right? Or their leadership skill or ability was limited. They just got the title for whatever different reasons. So, and that's the first level of John Maxwell's leadership, right? Which is positional leadership. Like you just have the title, but you don't necessarily have the influence. And I think it's the lowest level of leadership. But you got to start somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Typically in entry level leadership or an entry level position, that's the one you get first. It's just, hey, I got the title now, boss, right? And now I'm the leader, and people simply follow you because you have the title and nothing else.
Right.
So you got to start there. What do you think, like in your businesses, right? So you've obviously probably experienced all different 5 levels of leadership. We'll get into all of them, but like, what was your first leadership role, and how did you kind of go from 1 to 2, and what did that process look like? Like, what do you think?
Well, I mean, it looked terrible at first.
Yeah.
Like I always say, like, if I could find the employees that I hired when I was 19
Yeah.
and I could just like pay for their therapy or counseling, like, hey, I'm sorry, like I messed you up, I don't know where they're at now, but you learn by kind of making mistakes and like falling
Good.
forward. And I think that when you kind of find out that, for one, you've identified maybe just off of brand statement that, oh yeah, you are a leader, you've got influence. And then maybe if you are a leader and you've got influence, how do you increase your influence? How do you increase your leadership? Well, it's becoming more aware of different things you can do and not do some maybe beliefs that you've held on to about leadership that are false. And you can do that by consuming good stuff that teaches you a different way to think about it,
Yeah.
see it, perceive it. And that's why I've always, from early on, I've gone to Maxwell exchanges and spent the money to get in those circles because I wanted to be a better leader. If I, at my core, say I care about my people,
Yeah.
well, okay, well, what am I doing to become more valuable? Because you can't give what you don't got. And so as a leader, a person that's giving influence, right, whether that's your kids, it's a job, your spouse, coworkers, whatever that looks like within a church, a community, organization, are you becoming more valuable? Are you increasing what you can give people? Are you learning what leadership really looks like? And so that's what we're going to do today is go through these 5 levels. And I believe at the end, it'll give you a different understanding and thought process on what leadership is, and then how can you develop it in different areas? Because the truth, Brandon, is like there's 5 levels. If you say, well, what level am I at as we go through this? It's a good question. But what you'll find is you're at a different level of leadership with every different person.
Yeah.
You might be at a level 1 if you're building a business, right? I've got another business I'm launching. I have new people that are coming in. I know right off the bat, if there's no relationship there, I'm just interviewing and bringing them on. I'm at level 1.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if you're the best leader. John Maxwell's at a level 1. It doesn't matter if you're running the biggest church. Stephen Furtick, he's at a level 1 when you first bring that person on board, because they're joining the job because you've given it to them and there's consideration. I come to work, I get paid, I need to get paid, I got to provide for my family. You're at a level 1. And so I think everybody starts, for one, at a level 1 leadership for the most part.
Yeah.
Unless you've got some kind of reputation, you've known the person. The people are following you because you've got the title, right?
Yeah.
Now, that goes so surface. Like, you're not going to bring out the best in somebody. And I think at a level 1 leadership, in the beginning, what I would think is like, how can I get the most, from this person? How can I get them to do the most? Like, they were like a wet rag, and I was trying to, get the most water out of it. And then as you start to realize is that, man, how can I get the most, bring out the best of this person, right? And that's where you start to develop a relationship,
Right.
because, level 2 is permission, it's relationship. It's now I want to, go the extra mile. I want to be a part of this team. I value this person because they bring out the best in me. I value this person because they see more in me.
Right.
I value this person because they know, kind of my skills, my gifts, my weaknesses. They know my attitude. They know how I think and feel, and they're going to be able to help, kind of like guide me down being the best version of myself, because there's a relationship. And so I think that's just the easiest one, I think, for anybody to do, is just simply care about the person, instead of just saying like, I'm in charge, I've got the title, so therefore you got to listen to me. Because when you're leading from a position, it'll come across as demeaning. You're bringing people down, you're speaking down to people. And what does that typically birth? Resentment. I mean, how many people on here have worked for a boss where you just like, man, I hope that guy trips and falls. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't like that guy. You want to be able to, enjoy going to work, enjoying the conversation. And that doesn't mean you're the best friend of that person. That doesn't mean that you don't have standards and expectation. It doesn't mean that there's not consequences by any means. The relationship, it gives you the foundation to, when you apply those consequences and standards, they're taken in love, not taken in, oh, that person's just exercising their position. They just want to keep me down. They want to put a thumb on me. So, I mean, I think that for me is something where everybody's got to understand you start at a level 1 and you have to earn going to a level 2.
Dude, that's good. Super good. I mean, the best leaders that I've been under, like, there was a relationship established, right? It wasn't just like, hey, I want to follow you because you have a title. It was because, hey, I actually like being around you. Like you just said, we all have, or have had a boss probably at some time or another, or a leader that we were sitting under that you didn't like, right? and maybe you're in that position right now that you're following someone or being led by someone that you didn't like, and then when instructions or tasks or plans are made, you have that little bit of resentment, that little bit of second guessing, and what it's doing is actually, it's not only hurting you, but it's hurting the overall team, because there's no relationship built there, and so it's just transactional. As soon as there's an opportunity to get out, right, or move on, or find something else, it's like you're gone. But if you have that relationship, right, so if you're a leader and you have relationships with the people that you're leading, they're less likely to walk away, right? They're less likely to move on, or they're going to give it everything they have, because there's more than just a transaction taking place. Now there's a friendship developing. So for level 1, positional, right? Level 2, permissional or relational, and level 3, production. So it's results oriented. So now I'm getting results for the team.
Yeah.
Right. Now my level of leadership is beyond just a title or a relationship. Now you're following me because you can see the results that I'm getting for the team.
Yeah.
And this is, I think, when most leaders are beginning to earn the respect of their peers. So it's like, hey, I could look at you and I might not even like you. Right.
Mm-hmm.
We might not even have a relationship, but I'm following you simply because I can see results, and what you're saying is true, and what you're saying works. And I'm going to follow you and be on the team because I know that you have tested results, right? So that's a different level of leadership now. Mm-hmm. So now you're not just, the captain because you got a relationship or, a title. Now it's like, well, dude, you're a captain because you score goals.
Yeah.
Like, you're a captain because you get results. And so I could respect that even though I might not like you.
Yeah.
Right. So that's another level of leadership.
I think that helps with like imposter syndrome too, man.
For
I think a lot of times when somebody's trying to act out of sorts, or they're coming across like arrogant or demeaning, they're almost trying to like act in a certain way to show themselves that they are the leader, right?
That's very good.
And I think that when you start to have that production and you're like, I'm leading by production, I'm getting results, I'm out there performing, I'm there early, I'm there late, I'm giving an example of production, then all of a sudden you stop having that whole like, I'm trying to show out or demean you because I'm the leader.
Yeah.
And I heard this from, I think it was Pastor Matthew said this to me probably about 3 years ago. I said, when it comes to kids, because he had, I think at the time, a daughter that was 15, I said, how do you, like, if you have all this wisdom to give, like you know some stuff, you messed stuff up, you've got wisdom, you've been intentional with your growth, for years and decades, right? And you've attained wisdom because of that. And you want to sow seeds into your kids. You want to kind of help get their mind right. You want to lead them. You want to, that they're going down the wrong path. You're trying to help correct them. I said, how do you do that when they don't want to receive it? And he said, well, it's built off of relationships. He's like, if you're always just trying to, give them a tip, or trying to give them advice, or trying to tell them what they should be doing, or what could be the better way to do it, but there's not relationship, it'll never take root. He's like, what you got to do is spend the time intentionally just to like hang out, just to kind of go do something that they enjoy, just to kind of ask a question about what's going on, not to find a way to give them some kind of answer that's going to help better guide them. But he's like, once you develop the relationship, now you come back around and say, hey, listen, I know you really want to go to that party, or I know you really want to go do this, but let me kind of give you my thoughts on it. And now it's received. And I think that's so important, because there's probably a lot of leaders out there that maybe you're working a job, or you're running a corporation or a business, and the relationship, you haven't slowed down and kind of walked through the hall slow enough to kind of say, what can I do to show this person that I value them, right? And once you do that, now when you start to give the advice and feedback, because it might be great advice, you might be shaking your head like, dude, I've got great vision, I've got great ideas, but they're not taking it. Well, have you slowed down and kind of built that relationship? And I think about Chick-fil-A, dude, like they've got that down. Most of the time it's transactional, right? You go to McDonald's or whatever, like, I went to Whopper Grill the other day, and I was like, I don't know, this girl looked at me like she wanted to fight or something, I think she was just having a bad day. Yeah, and I was like, hey, I like your nails, those are pretty cool, because she had these long nails, and that broke her down a little bit. But dude, she was not accommodating. She was just like, this is my job. You give me $12, I give you chicken bowl. Like it was nothing else. But you go to Chick-fil-A, and they're trained on service.
Yeah, that's good.
Right? They're trained to like, how can I serve you? It's my pleasure. And if you think about it, dude, you feel so much better. It's almost like if they mess up your meal, you're more likely to not be so irritated or what have you. This girl, if I get my meal wrong, I got an in to be able to say something, right? Because she's already like, I'm already like, what are we doing here? But But that relationship, man, it's so important, which is why it's step 2, is you're starting to build from there. But Brandon, when it comes to production, like I've seen you do this with the church. I've seen you do this in your business, where you're not just sitting back, kind of like giving orders and directions on something that you've not done.
Yeah.
And even as you got into ministry, I saw you start at basically just like kind of, how can I help? Coming around, whether I was cleaning or doing anything, and then going into youth ministry and all those kind of steps. Nothing was like beneath you.
Yeah.
Right. And so can you kind of talk about like the power of that? And
well, that's what, in my opinion, gives you the authority to lead. It's like, I think it's John Maxwell that says, it's kind of like a travel agent, right? Mm-hmm. And the travel agent, all they do all day long is just book people trips to go places that they themselves have not been.
Yeah,
Is that John Maxwell?
That is, yeah.
And so like I never wanted to be a travel agent type leader, right? Where I'm just sending people to places that I've never been. And so it's like now when there's a complaint or there's a thought or there's a gripe or there's like a whatever, it's like, hey, I hear you, but I've been in your spot before. Like I've been, so I understand where you're at. Here's what I did. Let me help you walk through it.
Yeah.
Right. Because I'm not sending you or trying to take you somewhere that I myself have not been. And so it's just, in my opinion, it's just like a servant's heart. Like a leader has to care about the person, and a leader has to care and be convicted of that what the mission, the vision of the organization is important. And so if you actually feel like it's important, you're willing to do whatever it takes. And so in my ministry and my job, right, it's like I'm not scared to clean a toilet, right?
Yeah.
There's been so many Sundays, even sometimes now, like it's this tension that I live in. It's like, dude, I'll be preaching to like 1,200 people at 10:15 and then scrubbing some toilet at 6 p.m. on a Sunday night because I had a staff member not show up.
Right.
So, dude, it's like, dude, I'm just willing to do whatever it takes. And so therefore it gives you a different level of like conviction. It gives you a different level of authority to speak into people's lives because like, hey, I understand and I hear you, but like I've done it before too. And I think when people can see that, hey, you're not above them, but like you're right there alongside of them, helping them to get them to the place where you feel like is best for them. Because that's also what leaders do, right? Leaders have an ability to see beyond the current circumstance. It's like, hey, I'm leading my daughter or my sons. It's like, hey, I'm telling you not to go on the road because you might not see it yet, but like I've seen the danger ahead. You know, they might not get it, but like, hey, I can see brighter days for you. I can see better. So a leader has the ability to see beyond the current circumstance. And so I just think that as leaders, results matter, right? Like getting in the trenches matter. Having done it before matters. Not taking them a place that you've never been before matters. And then people are more willing to follow when they see that you've done it yourself. They're more willing to jump on board.
Dude, I think that
in
also,
my experience,
it also breaks away like any kind of it breaks away any kind of like the complaints that you could have, right? Yeah. Where it's like, hey, I can't do this objection. And so when I was producing, I knew that anytime we came out with a new lead strategy, anytime we had a new product that came out, that, it's just easy because change is difficult for somebody to say, that doesn't work, right? And not really kind of get into the uncomfortable doing the work until it shows up to progress. And so, for me, I love, dude, like getting on the phones, saying, hey, come around, let me listen to you dial. I want you to listen to me dial and go out there and be a top producer. For me, it wasn't like I wanted to be a top producer just because I wanted to be the top producer. I loved what that exemplified to my team.
Yeah.
That he's here training, he's here helping, he's here coaching, he's here recruiting, but he's also the top person on leaderboard each week, and he's out there gone early in the mornings, coming back really late at night. And I love the way that felt when I walked into a room and people knew that I had the smoke of battle on me too.
Yeah.
That it wasn't like I'm walking in the room, you guys should all admire me just because I'm the manager, I'm the vice president. No, like I've gone out there and I've got the same sweat, blood, smoke on me that you do. And let's talk about what we dealt with today and this week together. And let's go ahead and see what we could do moving forward. And I love that statement, man. Leaders see more than they see before. They see more than everybody else because they're sitting back, they're pausing, they're taking a look at everything. They've traveled some steps ahead, and now they see before. They could say, I know that this is coming.
Yeah.
I know that direct mail is going to be going away. Let's run some Facebook ads.
Well, dude, I remember when I first started doing insurance way back in the day with you, like I was having to travel to like San Diego or Bakersfield or LA, and I was like, dude, it's 2 hours away, 3 hours away. But then like you and some other guys were like, dude, we used to fly to Washington like every other week, or we used to fly. I'm like, wait, fly? Like, okay, maybe San Diego's not so bad,
Yeah.
right? So it's like following someone who's been in the trenches, who's done what you're doing and gotten results, man. It's easy to follow someone like that, and if you're leading people, it's like, hey, get in the trenches, get dirty. Like your people are more willing to follow you when they see you willing to fight for them and willing to fight for the organization. So that's level 3, leadership production. What's level 4?
Level 4, reproduction. And so, dude, this one I love, man. This is, to me, this is where the fulfillment and reward comes from.
Yeah.
The other 3, it's like, great, you got the position, you're building a relationship, you want to value people, serve people, love people. And I think that's essential. I think if the relationship is off, you're just not really seeing the value in people, that they're God's children. You got to sit back and say, everybody's messed up, but let me get that right. Level 3 is like, dude, you're producing at a high level. You're going out there and doing the job at a big level. Number four is like, now I get to, like, I went out there, I've learned, I earned, and now I get to return it. So it's like the whole learn, earn, return.
Yeah.
I've learned how to do it. I went out there and I've earned income doing it by producing at a high level. Now I get to return it and show somebody the way forward, right? I get to kind of say, hey, let me show you how to go out there and get the results that I've gotten. And that's where you really start to duplicate yourself.
Yeah.
That's where the compound, this is where everything good happens. This is where generational blessing takes place. It's where like your grandkids, they've got values and thought processes and belief systems because of what you sowed by your production and showing your kids how to do it. And then they went and did the same exact thing. Or in a business, like I went out and produced, and then I would recruit somebody and say, okay, now come listen to me dial. Come listen to me run appointments. Come listen to me make a sale. Come listen to me recruit. Come listen to me have a staff meeting. All right, now I want to watch you. Now you dial the phones. Now you go run the appointments. Okay, got it. Now I want you to go do it. So now you go do it by yourself. What did your results look like? Do you have any questions? And then the true testament is now they got to go do it. Now you recruit somebody. You show them how to do it. Right? They watch you how to do it, and then they go do it. And I think that's how you reproduce. And then you look up, and now you got levels of leadership. You got leadership benches. You got people that are, going out there. And now if I've got 6 people reproducing themselves, that's 6 times, 6, that's 36. And then I'm still doing it. Now all of a sudden you look up, and you're like, man, my business, I feel like it's growing, and I'm not lifting the load. And I think this, for me, Brand, was a difficult thing to learn a couple years into the business, because it was so easy to go produce, right? But to reproduce, it takes patience. Because I'm like, dude, how do you not get that? And I realized I had this curse of knowledge because I'd done it so many times and so frequently. I forgot what I was like in week 1.
Right.
Like I forgot that it sucked. I forgot that I was so uncertain. I forgot that I was insecure about what was going to happen. I forgot how I responded to the first, no that I got. And now I'm, a couple years in, and I'm like, dude, how do you think that way? Like, how do you not get this? Like, what are we doing? And you have to slow down, and you actually have to kind of take the foot off a little bit of the production side to reproduce, because you got to kind of coach them. You got to lead them. But the reality is, dude, once you get some people that have changed their lives, they've leveled up their life, and that could be financially, man, that could be faith. There's been a lot of people that, I've helped make a 7-figure income, and they're not as appreciative for that as they are the conversations I had when their marriage was on the rocks, when their faith was shaky, and I was able to slow down and say, listen, I know where you're at, because my first year of marriage we were separated, and I didn't know how to be a husband. I didn't know what that looked like. And let me just tell you what I did and what process I went through. I've had more people appreciative of that than the fact that they didn't have any kind of money. They were broke, and now they're making 7-figure income. And so it doesn't matter. It's not just business related. Like, you can sow into the people you're working with, or any capacity with every area. There's been people with fitness, right? Where I'm extremely grateful that you're like, hey, Duke, let's go to the gym together. And you didn't have to do that. And you showed me some ways to work out or some ways to eat. The 5 levels that we hit, right? The 5 F's, these all have leadership in every one of them, and you can lead people in different levels in all 5 of them.
Dude, I think that's spot on. It's one thing to lead yourself and get results for you, and that's amazing, and that's great, and that's necessary. But like once you start pouring into the next generation, right? Once you start pouring into that next person and you start to get them some results, that's where real satisfaction is found. Because now it's beyond you. Now we're talking about blessing. We're blessed to be a blessing, right? It's like what we've said our whole life. It's like, hey, we want to be blessed, but not just so we could be blessed, not just so we can have.
Yeah.
It's so we can give to other people. And I think that's the way that God designed us and God created us. And you look at even like the ministry of Jesus, right? This is what he was doing. He was reproducing like his results that he was getting. And that's, look throughout history. Now Christianity is spread across the world and billions of people are following, right? The reproductive message that Jesus was preaching for 3 years to 12 people, right? And then here we are all these years later reproducing,
great example.
Giving that same exact message. So once you can get to that level, which is level 4, reproducing yourself, that's when things start to get magnified, right? One could put 1,000 to flight, but 2 could put 10,000 to flight. So it's like, hey, once you start reproducing your results, like literally the sky is the limit, right? And the last level of leadership, which is level 5, the pinnacle level, which is respect. So now people aren't just following you because, relationship or results or because you have a title, but hey, there's a respect given. Like there's a respect to the office. Like there's a respect for what you've done. There's a respect for, the results that you've gotten. It's almost like they're honoring you, right? They're lifting. And I'm trying to think of a good example of like it's a respect not only for like what they've done personally and not only for what they've done like for other people, but it's like a respect for what they've done for like
it's like their character.
Yeah, it's just like it's the peak for a reason, right? It's the pinnacle for a reason, and it's a level of leadership that we all strive to get to because of like it's who they've become as a leader, but you just have such honor and respect for that person.
Yeah.
Like it's beyond the result. It's the way they treat their family. It's the way they love people. It's the way they care for the employees. It's the way they're willing to do whatever it takes. It's like, hey, once you have the respect of someone, and respect is difficult, right? Because it's earned, it's not given, and it's easy to lose.
Yeah.
And so if you get to this level of leadership where like, hey, you got a whole army of people respecting you, and that's the best place to be, and that's where I aspire to be as a leader. But that, like you said the P word, patience. It takes a while to get to that level with the people that you're leading. What do you think?
Do I think that you said it right? Like that last level is that's a difficult. There's not many people you'll have that pinnacle leadership with. It's difficult because that takes a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
That takes a lot of camaraderie, community together with that person. And that takes you being highly disciplined in the areas of your life, sticking to the values and the character that you aspire to be, and not letting those wane because, like you said, it's earned. You could fall from 5 to 4 pretty quick, right? I've had people at a level 5 where I'm like, man, I esteem them, and then all of a sudden find out that they're cheating on their spouse, right? And I have no judgment towards that, but I don't aspire to be that person that's kind of behind the doors having, that to me that's not a level 5 by any means. You could be doing all these other things great. You have the best finances and you got the best advice, you could have the best business, you could have the best family, so it seems, you could have all those things, fitness, but then if all of a sudden you're doing that, I'm like dude, I don't aspire to be that,
like you can follow that person because of their results, right? Like I see their work ethic in one area, but I don't necessarily respect that person,
right?
So to get to that level is a whole different thing.
And to stay on it is
100%. I think of like Pastor Matthew that you brought up, like the respect for that guy and what like he's done because it's so much bigger than himself, and so now like anything he says, it's like, dude, I value his opinion because of
who he is,
of the sacrifice that he's made and that he didn't have to make. Like it's so selfless, and so the respect level is like at the very top.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like to get to that level of leadership is something that we all should aspire to get to.
Well, I feel like I think I look at you as a 5, bro. Just so you know, and I know you really well, man, because we've been together for a long time, and so I think that's when. And the crazy thing is, you might think you're at a level 5 with somebody, or you aspire, you look at that person where you're like, I think that person is a level 5 leader for me.
Yeah.
And as you get closer to them, right, and you start to like, and maybe because they're at a far, they seem like a 5. Like, man, everything looks good. But I've had a lot of people where as you get closer to them, you're like, no, that's not a 5 leader. That's a 4.
Yeah.
You know, they've done some stuff to help me in different areas of my life, but I don't aspire to be that person.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not aspiring to be who they are and what they value. What I thought wasn't. And I think when you get really close to somebody, you have to be close enough to really know that, hey, that is a 5 person, because I've seen behind the door, I've seen behind the scenes, and they are who they are over here as they are over here. And I think that's the level 5. If you're somebody different here than you are there, that's not a level 5 leader. Right. You got to have that character and that integrity and those values. I mean, what I would suggest is everybody's on here is as we wrap up, put together the people in your life that you lead, right? And maybe like the top 10 or 15 people that are the closest to you, and just ask yourself, 1 to 5, where am I at with that? And then based off of that, what's the next step I can do to help increase my level of leadership with that person? And if you're looking around, you're like, man, my circle of 10 people, like I don't like them. I don't. Well, then you got to look at yourself, right? Because like I learned a long time ago, man, you don't attract what you want, you attract who you are. And so going back to the very beginning, you know, you can't give what you don't have. The first step is to always have this personal growth regimen. Yep. And dude, that's the one thing that I did consistently, and I still do. Not because of any other reason than the fact that I know that I could be very dysfunctional. I'm a mess. I could be a disaster. And so every day I got to intentionally develop and grow, because I want to be able to give more to my family. I want to give more to my community, more to my businesses, the people that are part of my business. And if I can't keep growing, I can't keep giving.
Yeah, that's good.
And so I think that's a big thing, is to, if you want to give more to the people you do influence, just spend more time consuming good podcasts, reading good books, reading the Word, doing some affirmations. A lot of the things that we've spoken about on all these episodes, I think you just got to execute on those.
I love it. That's good. This is helpful to me, definitely, just to self-audit, reflect, and go, hey, where am I at? Because the truth is, like, whatever you're leading or whoever you're leading is going to rise and fall to the level of your leadership, right? Yep. Craig Rochelle. And so where the leader goes, like, whatever our cap is, wherever we're stopped at, wherever, if we ever stop learning, like, we can't keep giving. And so it's good just to be listening to podcasts like this and be in books and just get that reminder, hey, I have to keep growing, not for my sake, but for the people who are following me sake, because there's too much potential, there's too much value, there's too many seeds that are planted in the people behind me that if I'm not consistently watering them and speaking life into them, then I may cap them because I cap myself. Yeah. Right. And then they are on a different trajectory, like, and their road to wherever God has for them is now messed up because of my cap that I placed on myself. That's good. And so it's this constant, like, man, I got to make sure that I'm leveling up, I'm growing, I'm looking for ways to get better, to improve in every area of my life, right? Because I don't want to be the leader that has, level 5 leadership, killing it in one area, and then is there's no respect in another area. So it's like, you got to balance it all, and it's like, it's just this constant, hey, I know there's more for me. I know there's different levels. I know there's a different place that I can get to. And so I got to be constantly growing because there's too much at stake.
It takes work. It takes sacrifice. But I can tell you guys this much. When you sit back and you say, man, that person, I knew where they were at. And because I sowed into them, because I gave back and I did whatever I could to help grab their hand and show them the way forward. And you get to see their success, man, there's nothing like it when you get to hear testimonies and breakthroughs, and you didn't do it all, but you just were a part, maybe a sand in the ocean of what they've created, whether that's in their faith, family, fitness, franchise, fitness, or finances, one of those things. Man, it is the most rewarding thing. And so, guys, make sure to like, share this, subscribe, share it with somebody that you think is a leader. Maybe it's a leader for you, or share with somebody you're like, man, I wish they would get better in their leadership because I'm within their influence circle and I got to deal with them. So make sure to share with that person too. But hey, guys, we love you. Make it a big week. Stay strong, stay steadfast, and we'll talk to you soon. God bless you guys.